While hanging 40 on anyone feels great, seeing your god melt back into human corporeal form after missing a point after attempt is as humbling as it gets. Alas, like this pod, we're still a blue-collar program. You're listening to Can't Read, Can't Write. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Can't Read, Can't Write, the podcast that proves Spartans can talk. I'm Mike Jones, joined as always by the pod's howl apologist, Kevin Greck, and the man who lives in Detroit for a reason, Alex Plum. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Yes, I was this podcast man on the street in Howell, Michigan this week. There'll be more on that later. I'm on my listening tour over here.
Yeah, Americana. Trying to figure out what does Americana say.
I will say that just a little beat for Howell. After spending the day in Southfield, Michigan, probably any town would look nice. So I'm just trying to keep this thing going. Now that I've taken shots.
Yeah,
at
no,
Howell.
you're digging. That's good for you. We appreciate that.
The people of Southfield are going to come for you next.
Yeah, I wonder where they're at on our listenership list here.
Southfield's what, like a couple office parks and a few hotels?
People at their desks are streaming us. They're our 25th biggest media market in the state of Michigan. All right.
So more than Swartz Creek, and but not as much as Kathmandu. All right, noted.
Correct. Yep. That is exactly right.
Very good.
All right. Well, we want to thank everyone, of course, for listening. And if we could ask a small favor, please share the pod with Spartans in your life. Rate, review, subscribe. Those stuff means a lot to us. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_pod. And if you've not checked out the YouTube channel, you can find it again at Spartan_pod. If you watch the video, please like, comment, all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. Plum, what are we talking about this week?
Gentlemen, we are the podcast where football always leads. As we start behind the green wall, we will be reflecting on the 40-0 win that Michigan State had over Prairie View A&M. A lot of things to discuss, some good and some not so good. We will talk a little bit about, we'll head off Grand River after that. If there's anything else to talk about behind the green wall, we've got a closed investigation finally from the Michigan State Attorney General on the whole Nassar affair. And we'll preview the Boston College game next week, which we're very excited about, before closing the episode with your Twitter questions.
It's not on the outline, but can we talk for a quick second about that save by the Michigan State men's soccer team?
Men's soccer,
Holy
incredible.
shit.
People should check out MSU men's soccer. I believe it's MSU_MSOC, MSOC on Twitter. And it is pretty incredible. This bicycle kick save, the goalkeeper had been beat. I don't know who they were playing. I can't remember now.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The save,
the save is incredible.
It does not matter.
Goalkeeper got beat. The ball was in the net, and it was too high. So the defender, was not going to get his body there to be able to head the ball out. That'd have been the only other option. And so he bicycled it out, and the ball was, on the line. That was about as close as it gets. And so yeah, impressive in a very, very beautiful save. So yeah, Michigan State men, the soccer program, looking about as good as it has in terms of its early run. So happy for them. And I think MSU women are also still undefeated in conference play.
I'll let you check that. And we've officially made it so that football does not lead. But let's chat about the
soccer podcast. I finally did it.
The Prairie View A&M Michigan State game, MSU winning 40-0, as Plum said.
Yes, we are, because we've had one conference game.
Okay.
Hey, listen, it's just like the football team then.
That's right.
Undefeated in conference
That's
play.
right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Would we also be playing Indiana in the Big Ten championship, as would be the case right now? Coach Sig.
Coach Sig is rolling out there, huh?
Have you seen the student section T-shirts for Indiana this year, by the way?
Is it just Joe Camel?
It's a play on
hanging
Marlboro.
out. Is it really?
Yeah.
Marlboro Reds, Indiana Cream and Crimson, something like that. What is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it's a Marlboro Red.
Okay.
I'll see if I can pull up the graphic later. But anyway.
Good for them. Maybe some of them will actually go to the game after the tailgate. Who knows? They won't. They won't.
This is a Prairie View A&M team that Tommy Schuster was asked about after the game. You know, being from the FCS, how would he describe where this team sort of ranks among FCS teams?
Right.
And he said they'd be middle of the pack, and you could tell he was being polite when he said that. So MSU, you know, I think that's really important context in evaluating a 40-0 win in a game in which MSU did not cover the spread and went under in the over-under. It's just worth pointing out. So there were plenty of opportunities to clear the spread. So we referenced one of them at the beginning, Jonathan Kim missing the extra point. But there are some others. So
confirmed, Jonathan Kim took the under. We know that. That is
he knew
fact.
early on needed to doink that.
Well, he is omnipotent, or was until that moment. So
one listener is very upset with us right now. Very upset.
That's awesome.
So I have plenty of things to say about the game, but I think let's start on the offensive side of the ball. You know, 40 points is both good and there was a lot left on the table. I think that's fair to say.
Are you looking for a Windiana 70-point win? Is that what you wanted? Just an absolute trouncing?
Well, I mean, look, there were several times they were in the red zone and got pulled back out of it as a result of penalties.
Correct.
Nate Carter dropped a beautiful pass from Aiden Childs in the end zone.
The people around me in the stadium would tell you that it was knocked out of his hands, but I agree with you on that.
Well, whose job is it to secure the ball?
Like, that's what I said. And they were like, he's just a little running back. He can't catch. And I was like, then what are we doing here? What's the point?
No excuses. That's on him. That should have been a tutty. Like, so yeah, I mean, you could easily say that there were at least 21 points potentially left on the board, or maybe sans 2 field goals. So minus, like, help me, 20 or 15 points left on the board.
Sure.
So that is a little bit frustrating. And I think also, despite putting up, what was it? How many yards on the ground?
It is a total
188 yards on the ground.
188. Yep.
Yeah, not good enough on the ground. Oftentimes in short yardage situations, just not able to pick up the yards that you would expect.
But at the same time, 458 yards total offense and 40 points to show for it. Pretty solid. There have been years where we would put up something like 458 points of total offense and score 7 points or 0 points or negative 10 points. So I'm not looking this gift horse in the mouth right now. And also, if you're a true MSU fan, you should be conditioned right now to never expect an MSU football team to beat another opponent by 40 plus points. D'Antonio never did it.
There it is.
I don't think I ever saw it under Coach Tuck. Like, it just does not happen anymore. And you should know better. Shame on you if you took the over. Burn your green. Burn it.
Wow. Well said. Really passionate.
Well, I'm getting a lot of friends already this episode.
So good.
I think look, I think it's fair to come out of this, and there were some things to be seen that are encouraging, right? So we had not seen heretofore Aiden Childs have more than one speed to his throw. Yeah. They were all missiles. But, you know, that one that he gave to Carter had a lot of touch on it. They lived in the mid-range a lot more than they had in the past. And there was touch on his throws in ways that there hadn't been before. Like, so you're seeing some growth out of Childs in real time, which is great.
Speaking of growth,
Yeah.
I'm willing to admit now after this game that maybe Aiden Childs is comfortable as a dual threat quarterback and that you can call him that. But it was accurate at the time last week when I said that we had not seen that from him yet. And that if you still believed what you were told on that, you were deeply racist. I stand by that statement, but amend it now retroactively and moving forward. So
because of the bootleg that he
correct,
took in?
the bootleg, and he actually made it all the way into the end zone. You'll note he knew where he needed to be on the field to score, and he successfully crossed that on his bootleg. So to me, all is well on that. But you are still deeply racist if you were saying he was a dual threat quarterback after last week. Anyway, moving on. Plum, anything that you learned from the game?
No, I think we're a human program still. It's nice to throw 40 up on anybody. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing means anything, it turns out. We're going to talk about injuries. Gavin Brocious should be shot. I'm now openly advocating the not murder, but certainly
an
the
offensive
injury.
lineman, or is he a race horse? Because
I don't
believe
care. I
given
don't.
the
At this
injury-
point, the level of injuries that this team is sustaining, the only way to get them to stop being injured is for them to stop conceptualizing what's happening to their physical, corporeal forms as injury. If they don't call it an injury, it is not an injury. And I'm over it. I'm over the injuries. It's not real. They happen at a rate which is incomparably and disproportionately high compared to any national mean. And for that reason, and that reason alone, we are weak-willed, and we're calling things injuries that are objectively not. And so to get that to stop, the threat of additional violence and the withholding of all rights, here to I'm going to stop. But anyway, I'm upset. I'm upset.
I do believe,
and there's no one to blame. You won't go to God for it, so you're blaming the victim.
And I found out that my God is in fact a mere mortal this week, and so I don't
brought this
know
up to the Methodist Church about Jonathan Kim being part of the Trinity now.
I was like, is this canonical? Where do I find this? Is this in the Apocrypha? Does Revelation somehow predict for me that Jonathan Kim was the chosen one to cometh? So anyway, no, I don't know what else to do but to remark in these wild, unhinged tirades on my hopes for the future. But Gavin Brocious can see himself right off to hell, because I don't. He was just injured last year or 2 years ago.
Yes.
My God.
Last year his leg was
Stop
blown.
it. Stop it. Get new legs. Get new legs.
When he was on the field, I could see that he was angry, as if in a knowing way, exactly what had happened to him, that it was a little familiar.
My understanding is that you could just look down at his leg and understand exactly what had happened.
I didn't see the replay of it at all. And
well, he just jettisoned his helmet like 20 yards down the field immediately after it took place. And the trainers, the first thing they did was put a tactful white cloth over his leg and then drew an outline of his ankle, which was in different directions than it was normally supposed to be. So anyway,
can I just say the other thing that I noticed, and I do want to acknowledge this because I caught the second half of play. I did take a pretty good nap during the third quarter. Just excellent ambient noise at that point. With those many points, there really is nothing better to do on a Saturday than have a nice ambient nap to the sound of touchdown, MSU. Who is our receiver? The last name was like Hayes Adams. I made that up. But something Adams, Hayes, Franklin Adams, something. You guys should know this. I'm not expected to know the roster.
Are you talking about our running back, K'Ron Lynch Adams?
That's the one. Well done, you. Running back, receiver, same difference. Yeah. What I want to say is at one point he was tackled. He broke through in the third quarter, like multiple, and it looked great. And then he finally got tackled. And while they were all in the scrimmage, one of the Prairie View A&M guys put his hand in his butt and then up the front of the butt and did like a thing. And you don't see it in real time, but you saw Lynch Adams' reaction, like squirming as uncomfortably as you possibly could in any of those situations and jumping up and being like, getting in the guy's face and then immediately looking at the referee and like pointing down at himself. And it was the one thing that I did see. And I was like, what? And then I waited for the replay and it is clear. And I was like, does this happen?
I believe it does. That sorts of thing.
Tomfoolery. Is this a boys will be boys kind of thing? You know,
I tell you, that didn't make it on the Jumbotron. I didn't know that this happened.
Yeah.
What was this?
There's clips of it online. I'll send it to you.
Oh, really? Is there clips online? Because I saw this in real time. Oh, I'm very proud of myself for having seen something in real time. Well, I'll just say this. I would take this over Hitler jokes on the Jumbotron anytime. You know? Anytime. Or Hitler trivia, I guess is what it was.
We know Plum's not from Howell. Anyway.
Well, can we talk about K'Ron Lynch Adams a little bit then?
Let's do it, because he had a great night.
Yeah. So technically speaking, Carter ends the game with fewer carries, higher ends with 91 yards in total to K'Ron Lynch Adams 63. Carter averaged 11.4 yards per carry to Lynch Adams 4.2. But that includes his 91 gained was 160-yard run. So otherwise, we're talking 7 attempts for 33 yards, a less impressive game. But it seemed to me that Lynch Adams is the superior back as it relates to this offensive line in particular. Being able to make something, truly anything out of nothing, he is more well suited for. To your point, Plum, like he was a bowling ball at times, just like taking hits and moving on for another 3, 4, sometimes 5 yards. Anyway, Greg, you were going to say something.
You're saying just because he's shifty, he can get out, he can bop around. He's not like Nate Carter, hit the hole.
Yeah, and more yards after contact. Like I think he takes contact better than Carter does. Like, yeah, I will say I felt bad at times for Carter because it felt like his plays were exponentially more blown up than Lynch Adams were at times. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that means Lynch Adams is having a better first step and is just not getting that pressure. Anyway, that Smith talked about after the game that it's going to, they'll ride the hot hand, but generally speaking, it's going to be trend towards a 50-50 split. I think the first game, Carter, it was disproportionate in a different way. Carter having more carries in that game than Lynch Adams had. But it just feels like he is a more impressive running back at this point in time than Nate Carter. And that's not to Nate Carter seems like a really nice dude, but I don't know. It's just something to keep an eye on because I watched this game and notwithstanding the 188 yards on the ground and the 5.5 yards per carry, like it didn't feel good to me. Like it didn't bode well for the remainder of the season.
You've become quite accustomed to looking gift horses in mouths, huh, Michael Jones?
We're back.
It's like the Akron game, buddy.
That's what I'm saying. You felt real good about yourself after all of this, wet towel, wet blanket last year, and now you're just rolling it forward. I think there were things to be excited about in this game.
I'm not disagreeing with that. This is a more competent offense by a lot than what we've had the last 2 seasons. I want to be very clear. But you're looking at a down Big Ten, or at least a Big Ten that we didn't think was going to shake out the way that it was going to. So
it does, kind of look like it's Ohio State and everyone else right now.
Well, so all that tells me is there's opportunity on the board, and so I'm not trying to rush a playoff appearance because we're in the Big Ten and somehow that magically happens for us, right? But like, there is opportunity on the board here, and one place that they are coming up short is the offensive line play. Like, and it doesn't help now with 2 injuries at right guard, and now we're on Dallas Fincher there, and he's probably going to be swapping out with a true freshman. Like, it's not great.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll stop talking.
I thought the receiving core showed that more than Nick Marsh can get involved. We talked about Tommy Schuster as well. Like, hey guys, not only do we have more than 0 quarterbacks, we have more than 1 quarterback. Like, we have a dude that can go in there and not hurt you, was the impression that I got from him. He took easy outs, he made some good throws, and he had a rushing touchdown. So we liked that.
8 for 10 for 97 yards. Like, you'll take it.
Yep. And Aiden Childs, like I said, really good at kind of spreading it out a little bit more and getting everyone involved. That was something that they wanted to do last week. That's continued this week. The penalties are a real issue here. They've killed a lot of drives.
Yeah.
And they've extended a lot of drives on defense. So that's a big problem, but it's definitely on Smith's radar. It's the first thing I believe he brought up in his press conference.
Yeah.
So
so last week after we recorded, he was asked last week about penalties, and was asked about what their internal accountability was, and was not willing to share that. But it sounds like they're on it. But the more interesting point he made was that it shouldn't be about the punishment. It should be that you disappointed your teammates. Like, peer pressure should matter more. Like, and that was an interesting. There's a lot of the cultural stuff that he's hitting for me as it relates to, and the way he's communicating that stuff out to the press. I got to say is just really impressive.
Yeah, refreshing.
Yeah, like. No, I'm not going to tell you if they have to run extra laps, but like that really shouldn't be the point. Don't get the penalties.
Right.
Though I guess he's also the first to acknowledge, like, I'm not looking for 0 penalties in a game. You're not playing hard enough if there's 0 penalties.
There's 0 penalties, yeah.
And I do think that officiating crew, there were a couple calls that it's like, you could have held the flag on that one.
My guess is, just looking at the age of the official, the referee, my guess is this was a tryout crew, a backup crew who they're positioning to get into more routine rotation. You would not be putting a senior crew on Michigan State right now against anything called Prairie View A&M ever. So
yeah. Did either of you see the roughing the passer? Greg, did they play that in the stadium? Plum, did you see the roughing the passer that pulled back Brantley's first pick six?
I agreed that was a good transition. It did seem a little sus to me. Yeah.
Yeah. The defender, for those who didn't see it, the defender's going up to attempt to block the pass. And in doing so, hits the quarterback's head with his arm. It wasn't it was one of those that, I mean, maybe technically that meets the definition, but you don't have to throw every flag.
Right.
And there was no risk of injury to the quarterback. Like, it truly was one of those, I guess.
But it was action towards the head or neck of a quarterback, and that's it. That's how the system works.
That's what they want.
Don't understand. Anyway, that is a decent transition to Chuck Brantley, who had not 1 but 2 pick sixes in the same series.
Drive.
Yes. Yeah.
Not good.
Well, they were very good.
Spectacularly good.
Oh, sorry. You misunderstood. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the first one got called back, but the second one ended up being a 100-yard pick six, longest pick six in MSU history. And the press tracked it. He ended up running somewhere between 120 and 150 yards based upon his traversing the field.
How he
sideways.
Starts in the one corner of the end zone, and then he makes it way back to the MSU sideline, and then he ultimately scores in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And he was gassed.
Oh, because he should have not put his shoulder into the defender. He should have kept going, but he was like, I ain't going to make it.
He was ready to take a third quarter nap after that run back, man.
They asked him after the game if he'd ever run that far, and he's like, I don't think since high school when I returned kicks. Like I don't run that far. But truly, like, I mean, a daring play, but required field vision, right? Because I believe he even said before the game there was a conversation with Rossi about like they talk about this stuff, like take the knee. But saw he had lead blockers, traversed the side of the field to pick up more lead blockers. Like, I mean, it was an impressive piece of running out of Brantley.
He had better field vision than me in the upper deck, being able to see everything because I'm a man of the people. I was in the upper deck for that part of the game. Anyway, you're welcome, everyone. And as soon as he caught it, I was like, take a knee, you idiot. And as he exited the end zone, I was like, oh God, why do we do this to ourselves? And then I saw the convoy that he had after like the 20-yard line. And I was like, never doubted it for a minute. Let's go. Let's go. And you could tell, like, you could see it all kind of build.
Yeah.
And then getting back to the officials, after he scores, it just puts a mum over the entire stadium because they're like, the last play is under further review for no reason at all. And it lasts like 5 minutes.
His knee did go down before the goal line. So if there was a pylon cam, it would have been a more interesting conversation. But there was no pylon cam.
Stupid. Just let it happen. It doesn't affect the game at all. Just let everyone have that moment, move on. A team like MSU is going to score anyway. Like, why disrupt this game all the time? You guys haven't been to a game yet this year. Maybe you realized this last year, but like these games are long and they just drone on forever. And maybe we don't really, it's like when we were growing up and they would measure out the yardage, like every single game, like every single drive 3 or 4 times, and it would just stop everything. And we all just agreed. We had a handshake agreement of like, this will all kind of work itself out. We don't have to ruin football with this. I think we need that with all of these little by the inches officiating moments where they just bring everything to a screeching halt for an inevitability. Why are you doing that?
And can you imagine how pissed Brantley would have been?
That's the next point.
Because he literally talked about that after the game. He's like, no, I wouldn't have been fine with what I did. Like,
Plum, how do you pull Chuck Brantley to the side if you're Jonathan Smith and go, okay, you're the running back on this next play. We're getting you in the end zone. Like, how do you coach up someone in 2 seconds to become the running back?
You got to give him the touchdown.
Your inevitable touchdown. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's literally
you approach that.
Yeah,
Wildcat, right?
Right.
You have to wildcat it.
You know, I don't know. Maybe you like do the thing with the hand in the butt, and it's like the tickling and the like weird pressure, you know. And it's just it's a little zhuzh. You just got to get them. You got to get them going. I don't know. I mean, there has to be some natural inclination to want it, and he has it. He has to have it.
He was asked about the game, which pick six was better, the Ohio State one he had, or this one. And I don't believe he committed to an answer, but he did say he was looking forward to playing Ohio State again. I feel like that's asking for Bama.
Yeah.
We don't want that
Is
smoke.
his plan to have 5 pick sixes in that game? Because that's what it's going to take, Chuck. So,
yeah. Anyway, Chuck Brantley, incredible game, and has been playing pretty consistently through. You know, I appreciate we're only a few games into the season, but like, he's been a noticed presence on the field. Real quick, I got to say the defense, obviously, what's to talk about because they pitched a shutout, right?
Right.
But ferocious in the backfield, tenacious against the run. And there were a couple of really frustrating passes that got caught on Ed Woods where, I mean, I guess I'm a little annoyed Ed Woods didn't look back at the pass, but like he was in prime position and it just got fed into a tight window. You would expect those things against Prairie View A&M, but still they've kept all three opponents to sub 3 yards per carry thus far on the season,
which is going to be important for the next game. So that's a very good plug, Mr. Jones. That's why you're the host. I was impressed by the defense that they didn't give up a garbage time touchdown.
Yeah.
That even the reserves, when they went in, they held. The closest they ever got was that 105-yard pick six from Chuck that we were discussing. And I thought that showed like the mettle of everyone on the defensive unit and actually caused me to give some credit to our defensive staff as well. They had them ready to go and they had them engaged in the game. So I'm so accustomed to taking off the gas and then the other team puts up a few. D'Antonio was really, really good at that. But didn't happen. Didn't happen in this one.
Yeah. Well, I guess good win, but it was an inevitable win. So I liked it. I think in short, like I like seeing the growth out of Aiden Childs. I think that's a really big deal. I think seeing all the wide receivers involved is a big deal. I am concerned at one point in time, I don't know if it finished this way, but we had more yards gained on third down than we had the other drives or other downs combined. That kind of
we learned after last week that you can do that, and we were like, we should try it.
Converting third downs, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that was cool that they did that last week. Should we do that?
Yeah,
yeah.
But and yeah, the penalties. I'm hoping that these persist as penalties related to youth, which is I think kind of what you can chalk a great number of them up to, but. All the same, like, got to get it cleaned up if we're going to make a run.
Yeah.
Should we talk BC then?
You want to bring that preview up?
Kevin?
Going to bring that preview up? All right. So, Boston College, the Eagles. Let me tell you a little something about Eagles. The Eagles really don't like to throw the ball all that much. They were more balanced last week.
Wait,
against...
they don't go through the air? That feels
yeah. You would think, but these Eagles have clipped wings and they waddle around on the ground a lot more. They were actually more balanced against Mizzou this week, a game that they lost against a top 10 team, but played very well in. Thomas Castellanos is their quarterback. He can throw it a little bit, but he likes kind of the short range, the mid and the short, the dip in the dump. But really, the rushing game is the emphasis on offense, and that's why I was heartened to see how well we have been playing against the rush. They have what kind of turns into like a three-headed monster at running back. They've got Trayshawn Ward, they've got Kyle Rubichow, and they've got Castellanos as well. But the real thing for the Boston College Eagles is the defense. They are stout up front. They're good at stopping the run. We're not particularly good at enabling the run, as we've discussed. So I think that doesn't set up perfectly. However, if we can defensively kind of keep them in check, keep them from the big chunk plays, I think this could be a really good game this week. I am concerned about our ability to score points, and I am concerned about Aiden Childs having to kind of like bounce out quite a bit more. The good news is, I don't know, Jonesy, is our Coastal Elite what you're hearing? But I have heard from several people that they were going to this game. And I have heard from other Spartans that I know nationally that they're flying to Boston for this game. So I expect there to be a pretty substantial MSU presence. There were times during the Maryland game where I heard more "Go Green, Go Whites" on the broadcast than anything else. I think that could happen again this week. And I think we could make this almost like a neutral site game that might set up to be potentially a really, really good matchup between a ranked Boston College team that has a first-year head coach in Bill O'Brien, who turns out, if you can take Penn State off of its deathbed, you can also coach at Boston College, versus a team that we're kind of like figuring it out if our O-line is able to not get shot on the field, as Plum has suggested. So I don't know. Have you heard this, Jonesy? Have you heard about anyone going up there?
Yeah, though I will flag it's a red bandana game for Boston College, which for those who don't know, they wear some objectively awesome jerseys for. It's an annual tradition. They're honoring an alum who died in 9/11, rescuing people. They got the wrong week. So they need to fix that. But
it's in the name. It's in the name of the event.
Yeah, I would have thought that but
it's as if they forgot what week it was.
Right.
But anyway, so it will, for them, it's an event game. I will say that's something to keep in mind. And their quarterback, I do just want to flag the comp that I've heard on him is a better version of FAU's quarterback. He's got a fair number of yards on. Yeah, he's had 28 carries, 97 yards. So that's still, you got to factor in the sacks on that, right? But so should be, I don't know. I would anticipate, look, Boston doesn't turn out. So there's that. But so there's seats available. If anyone wants to go to Boston, shitty town, don't go, but go for the game. Was just there, can confirm, shitty town.
Where did you go when you were in Boston, by the way? Did you go anywhere cool? If for any Spartans listening that are going to the game, anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so there's a new neighborhood within like the last 10 years that we went down to called Seaport. And by new, like literally it was like fish docks and barely like inhabitable. And they've built it all up. So it's all brand new, tons of fun stuff around there, lots of shopping, lots of drinking. So that was a really great time. We went out to a couple places in the North End that was a lot of fun. But I would say Seaport has some fun, like upscale bars, and then also some fun dive bars for you to check out. So, but do know, for those who maybe have not ventured to Boston, traffic is a nightmare there. Like really shitty traffic. So,
but the public transportation is solid enough.
Sure, maybe.
Sound.
Oh, he wouldn't know.
I did not hop on whatever they're trying to
rides the tube.
Right.
Yeah, our coastal elite is getting a black car from one place to another, of course.
Of course. An XL. Anyway.
Silly me.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, if anyone's going out, Seaport, 10 out of 10 recommend. So that'd be my recommendation. Anything else we want to say about Eagles, Kevin? Did you bring any Eagle knowledge to the table this time?
These Eagles have their wings relatively clipped. And then that was my continuation of the bit for this week.
All right. It was a good bit.
But we did it 3 times. You know how many?
I thought we were going to do it all year. I was prepared for this.
I actually looked forward at the other mascots to be like, how long can we keep this going and in what ways? But at a certain point, we do need to educate the people.
All right. Speaking of which, we want to chat with you a little bit about Mama's Mercantile and Eatery, a place that you should definitely check out. We mentioned last week, but if you missed it, MSU Game Day specials, $15 Go Green olive burgers, half-pound locally raised beef, cheddar cheese, and house-made olive sauce, lettuce, served with fries and dip sauce, $3 domestic bottles. They've got some buffalo chicken dip, which is fantastic, and hand beer battered onion rings. Games are on with volume and a bar rail coming soon. But Mama's Mercantile,
bar rail.
check them out. Same specials on Lions game days, except it's a Honolulu burger, which is, again, a half-pound locally raised beef patty, cheddar, grilled pineapple, barbecue sauce, mayo, lettuce, served with, again, fries and dipping sauce. So check them out. They're on right on the line of Washtenaw and Jackson County, just off of I-94 at exit 153 for Clear Lake Road.
Yeah, I guess
don't have Google available to you.
Go for the Lions special if you're some kind of beta that doesn't require your teams to be undefeated. Like, come on. Watch a winning team on an MSU Saturday. Let's go.
Very well said. Wow.
Let's head off Grand River. And I feel like sometimes it's not on our outline, but we should maybe take stock for a minute. We mentioned it earlier about what's happening in the Big Ten. That 4-game stretch that we talked about earlier in the year of Oregon,
Ohio State, Michigan, and Iowa.
2 of those feel really winnable now. Maybe 3.
Well, we don't know. Maybe we're worse than Troy. Who can know how we compare to Troy?
Or Arkansas State.
Football. Or Arkansas State.
Arkansas State.
It is very fascinating to me that Michigan is already on the fire Sharon Moore bandwagon, which they should be able to do easily as he does not have a contract.
No, actually, their genius athletic director fixed that just this week. So,
he did.
Interesting. Interesting.
I wonder if Sharon Moore leaked that as a way because it became a point of embarrassment. That's a pro move.
Yeah.
Because if you're Sharon Moore's wife, you're like, hi. I know that you're all wrapped up in football, but we need
money, please.
Mortgage payments are coming in. Like, we need this. This is supposed to be the jump from being a coordinator to being a head coach is massive. And I would like to start living that lifestyle now. Thank you. So let's go. Let's get that thing done.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Iowa played Troy and did win 38-21, but I'll just – the 38 is kind of impressive for Iowa. We can call that out as a thing, though it wasn't great the week before against Iowa State. But the 21 for Troy, that's what you're supposed to be good at, Iowa.
Yeah, and there was a moment in the second half where Troy was like knocking on the door already up 4 or something like that, if I remember correctly from when I was refreshing in Spartan Stadium. And it looked like this might become something.
So anyway, we should maybe just we should do a better job of just doing a quick keeping tabs on the LOLs of the Big Ten. But let's move on to the stuff we normally talk about off Grand River. And it's worth mentioning, we didn't pick it up, I think, last week, but the Attorney General has closed the investigation as it relates to MSU surrounding Larry Nassar and the university's handling of Larry Nassar and its subsequent, I think we can all agree, antics. It involved Michigan State finally turning over what were privileged documents to the Attorney General for her and her team's review. And there was, as we suspected, nothing to report out on.
Yeah. Were you guys bothered by the statement by Dana Nessel on this? Because I was a little bit in a few ways.
Say more.
So she said that one of the reasons that she was so disappointed in MSU was that it led on the survivors that there might be some hope in there being something in these documents, and that now that's gone, and MSU led them to believe that there was this hope. And I would suggest that maybe that's what she was doing. Like, first off,
define hope.
What was the hope? the hope was that there was some truly awful, even more awful thing that could have been in these documents that like you want like to make a bad situation even worse. That is the hope. And then also,
Yeah.
MSU said the entire time, and we're happy to just dunk on the administration at times when they deserve it.
Yes, we are very happy to dunk.
But they said several times that there is nothing in these documents that is germane to the investigation. These are all privileged communications. And a judge reviewed all of those and agreed. So when actually all the documents are turned over and actually that ends up being the truth, how is it that that's MSU's fault somehow in all of this? I don't understand that. But I am glad that they were handed over ultimately. And I am glad that they're, for the sake of the investigation, that there was nothing terrible in them. Jonesy, are you a little bit surprised that we haven't heard anything about what's in them? Like, you've done professional doc review. We've kind of speculated about what might be in those. Is there anything about this that stands out?
I am. I don't know. I've read a lot of documents. I think I've only worked on one thing that anyone would describe as sort of like sexy, if you will, of public interest, and.
But also, was it actually sexy? Like, do tell.
I don't want to. I can't talk about it. But I will say that a lot of times, and particularly when you get into privileged material, like, it's more boring than you would suspect. Like, a lot more boring. Because it's worth remembering also that attorneys is as bad of a reputation as we get, and well earned, but that we're not capable of facilitating or being complicit in criminal activity. Like, we can't further a fraud or perpetuate a cover-up. Like, those aren't things that are within the realm of responsibility. And the firms that MSU is interacting with are well-regarded law firms. Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't Better Call Saul, right? So it is unsurprising to me by a lot that the things that MSU was holding on to weren't of substantial consequence. Am I a bit surprised that there's not a leak? Maybe a little bit, because I would have thought that there was something with some sauce on it. Like, there's enough of it's easy points to score against Michigan State that, one of the things we've speculated that may be in these documents is scoring victimhood, right? Yeah. How much is this kind of assault that he perpetuated? What's that worth? And what's this one worth? And
with specific names and with specific, like, all right, well, under these circumstances, then this,
or ages, or the parents there, like, like, because you're bucketing when you're talking about a class, you're trying to bucket out like damages, right? So it's a little surprising to me, because that does paint Michigan State as crass, and I hate, because we all feel, I think, as alums, terrible. Like, I mean, shame, remorse, guilt about what happened at our university. Mm-hmm. But at the point that they were having that conversation, that was a business conversation. And so I'm a little bit surprised, because they were on the hook. They were on the hook for a bunch of money. And so you're trying to figure out how much money you're on the hook for. And you're talking about what your insurance provider is going to cover. And like, so I'm surprised those kinds of emails haven't. And maybe they will, right? There's enough people.
It can still happen.
Yeah, it appears that some of the more some of the survivors who are perpetuating advocacy to this day seem pretty intertwined with certain communities, and so maybe that stuff kind of comes out eventually. I don't know, but at the end of the day, like hopefully Nestle kept the wagons tight on this too. Like that would have been also the responsible thing to do from the AG's office. So, but it's not privileged anymore. Technically, MSU could make these things public.
Yeah.
Like there's no privilege.
And this was a time where MSU was still actively stepping in it. Not that they're not now. They are definitely still now actively stepping in it. But that was a time when former Governor Engler, was like getting in public spats with individual survivors. So like, I'm astonished that there wasn't something in there worth leaking. And I agree with you. It could still happen. Plum, anything on this?
Oh.
No, I don't think so. I think you closed it. She's a wacky gal. It's about the most that I probably can say about her. And I agree with you. The statement she made was bonkers.
Yeah, hope.
Yep, it does make sense. No hope.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, I think, did either of you see the Matt McGreeny article that I think came out today?
I did, yes.
I worry. Not worry. I mean, whatever. MSU deserves all the daylight on or sunshine or whatever you want to call it on anything that's NASA related. But reading that article today, I felt like and Matt McGreeny is an incredible journalist that we've got a ton of respect for, but that there's still clicks to be wrought out of this story, because it felt very much like a piece adjacent to this news that was just there to generate a little more stomping. I don't know. And again, Matt McGreeny, excellent journalist, but this felt like a bit of a hit, not a hit job, but like there wasn't much there. And he just got a bunch of quotes that made Michigan State sound shitty still, without any good reason for it.
And I agree with you. McGreeny is like the lens through which I understand this whole ordeal.
Incredible journalism.
He covered it so well when he was at the LSJ the first time. I will say there were, and this isn't on the outline, but there were additional documents around MSU osteopathic medicine dean William Strample, and what the university knew about him, and some of his performance reviews, which we already knew were bad and showed terrible judgment on the part of the leaders at MSU, that also came out this week in the LSJ. So I'm willing to call it a wash because, as I've said before, I think MSU kind of got lucky with how much press it got versus what was deserved for his conduct in all of this.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, do we want to take a second between that and our next topic, which I know people are really excited about, to chat about bottle number 5 from listener Mike Jones.
Poor listener Mike Jones. Oh my God. What a transition.
I'm curious, both of you, have either of you checked what it is?
No, I haven't looked.
All right.
What are we drinking
Have you
here?
checked?
No, I've not. I already drank mine.
Oops. I first question, because I got the text.
All right.
Thoughts, and if you had to peg it for what it is, what do you think?
Is this a scotch, actually?
No.
No, yeah, very much no. If
you conflated these two places, they would be very angry at you.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's
So it's an Irish whiskey.
It is an Irish whiskey.
Okay, very
Oops.
good.
So,
Well, I found it to be very palatable for an Irish whiskey. Then I've got to say that, because I don't generally prefer Irish whiskeys.
yeah, I think this is a pretty robust Irish whiskey. It closer to a bourbon by way of Irish whiskey, right? Like, it's got a little more sweet to it than I think some Irish whiskeys. Greg, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but now I'm curious how much it
I mean,
costs.
I don't drink a lot of Irish whiskeys, and I thought of this as a Scotch. So to me, that is a ringing endorsement
Yikes.
for whatever this is.
That's got
So, it's a 44% and priced at $55-ish.
What is it? What's it called?
Greg, I am getting from, it's called Dead Rabbit, but I am getting it from Scotchology, and the notes on it, it is signaling out notes of peat.
It's got a little sweetness, but it does have a little smell to it as well. A little campfire smell in there.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
Of the
I would
smokiness. It's the more campfire rather than the brininess. But
I would recommend, like, if you're into whiskeys, I would buy this. This is a good one. I would drink more of this for sure. So, he's given us two good ones in a row, but we did learn don't drink it out of the plastic bottle.
Nope, that's the first no. No me gusta.
All right, Greg, you have a quick bit, and then we're going to chat something that Kiski sent us.
yeah, so I am a man of my word, and I went to Howell, Michigan, as I said I would on this podcast last week, to expand my horizons in the place. I got
why? Please tell the facts.
Because I wanted to get a rock and rye icy, and then as long as I'm there, I might as well also go to Howell. So I learned a few things. One, I learned that it actually has a little bit more of a downtown than I knew. Did you guys know that there was like a little downtown corridor thing going on in Howell?
No.
I had no idea. They got a couple of breweries. They got a couple of wineries. Went into a couple places. Went into the library, which is charming.
What kind of wine do they serve?
I have no idea because it was not a place that I really stuck around. But it's there.
Chardonnay
There's like
only?
a little tasting room situation. Could be. Dry and white. So anyway, I will say it was more charming than I expected, and there was more to it than I expected. The thing that surprised me the most is when I went in to these places, the people would look up from whatever it was that they were doing. They would look me up and down, and they would welcome me with open arms and just say, "Welcome to Howell, Michigan. You are always welcome here in Howell, Michigan." I was just taken back by their warmth, and I assume they were referring to a podcast status. They kept calling us one of the good ones. So I assume that's about MSU podcasting. But anyway, Howell, Michigan, more than I knew was there. So
You're saying check it out.
Sure.
Your kind of people are there.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Plum. Kiski sent us an article this week. Do you want to, from Bloomberg, do you want to walk the folks through a bit of the story here?
As much as we know, and this apparently has not been reported before this September 12th published date in Bloomberg. So the reporting is that on September 29th last season, when Michigan State was in Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes, the night before the game, the team gathered in the lobby of the Marriott where they were staying and started to coalesce around the reality that the news had hit about, obviously Tucker at this point and the Spartan Dogs program or whatever the hell the NIL was. SD4L was pulling the funds. And the players were like, what the fuck? They're reporting at least one player was getting $10,000 a month at that point. And the group, is basically being told that those payments were ending. Coaches were trying to calm them down. Athletic officials are calling other fundraisers to secure their bags, which obviously were secured because the game went on, but it just, striking to hear this reporting that this was all known to the players and they were ready to freaking strike over effectively, pretty significant and severe contractual changes. And I'm just struck by that. I'm struck by people like Matt Ishbia and Steve St. Andre and the I don't know. There's more. I know the people behind SD4L, just how smoke and mirrors, how utterly unprofessional, how just flagrantly disreputable the whole NIL effort early was. I mean, SD4L is to NIL collectives what Mel Tucker is to college coaching, right? Which is just absolutely pathetic, self-evidently its own worst enemy, zero substance, worst in class. And I could go on, but it is striking. And to have been players, to have been put through that, I think I won't speak for either of you two, but I recognize now the utility of NIL and sort of where we are in it. I certainly am not championing it or what it is doing to, thy beloved alma mater and, these things that we hold dear, but it is what it is. Anyway, my point being, these guys, this was an agreement. And to do this to players while they've lost their head coach. I mean, we were pretty hard on STL I think, with all of that shit when it broke. And I think we were right to be. But good for the players, I guess. I'm glad that this is getting reported now. And good for them. Good for them for standing up and being like, this is some bullshit. And we would be happy to drag the rest of this fucking university for the hell bullshit they've put us through. Especially when you look in retrospect, and I don't want to opine too much, but just with what our athletics department knew, what the university knew about Mel Tucker, the timeline will never be fully clear in terms of what Haller knew and when he knew it about Mel Tucker. My point being, they let him stay on longer than they probably should have. It imperiled the program and imperiled these young men's future. And anyway, a very interesting read. Appreciate the Keith Ski for sending it over. I don't have a subscription to Bloomberg, so appreciate being able to read the article. It's interesting to me. And fuck SD4L, I guess, is how I would probably end that rant.
Well, they did. That's, I guess, is there good news in that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There was something interesting in that article, too, as it relates to funding that I find. So Steve St. Andre apparently was doing like 2 to 3 mil, and Ishbia was doing $500K.
Yeah.
And then I also want to shout out the Bloomberg author for saying, upon sort of stopping payments, that they attempted to blame fans, and then went on to list the net worths of these individuals. So shout out Bloomberg. I see you, leftist. But it was interesting. I thought it was a little bit closer in contribution between Ishbia and St. Andre. I also, a broader conversation, and I'm going to attribute this because I heard John Kirby and Austin Smith from the Only podcast talking about this issue. The idea when you have more money than God, and you're someone who's hyper competitive like Matt Ishbia, and we know he is because he's been caught on tape, like
because we've listened to him on voicemail,
right? Like, I'm sorry. Why 500,000?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you even put that amount in?
Mm.
Like, you have enough money to go win a natty, or at least get us in that direction if you want to. And so when you have that kind of fun money, like if this is important enough, if you're Steve St. Andre, to contribute $2 million to,
yeah,
why would you ever half-ass it? I thought that was a really fascinating point that, like, I mean, because we've talked about the, like, miss me with the like, I need fan support, like, because you got this. You're fine. If you're a billionaire, you're fine. But I thought that was also a really fascinating point of like, why even bother at all? Like,
Right.
if you're not going to do it all the way, why would you? I don't know. Do either of you have thoughts on that? I loved that point of like, you've got fuck around money, and
you've got put a roller coaster in the middle of Birmingham, Michigan money, which
Correct.
is a tremendous waste of time and resources. You might as well tremendously waste that money going and buying national championships for your alma mater. Like, all we want is your brain to send positive receptors. And is roller coaster that your kids are already too old for going to do that for you versus your alma mater? Like, so what? Why get involved at all if you're not going to get involved all the way? Do the Phil Knight. Just write the blank check. It doesn't matter to you.
Well, the problem is, and the article talks about that, St. Andre had sort of developed a personal friendship with Mel Tucker. And
You know that too.
That's a problem. That's a problem for every reason. But the biggest problem is if you then internalize this friendship, like this has been a betrayal to you. And so now you're pulling these money to hurt him. He's already gone, motherfucker. You're so disconnected with that amount of money. You're so unmoored from the actual experiences of real people. And you should just shouldn't. Just keep your money and go away. Or be a good person and redistribute some of this wealth in ways however you want to, but don't be terrible and do it in ways that can really fuck with people's livelihoods. Yeah. And that's just horrifically selfish and fully disconnected from any moral sense of what one with that amount of wealth's responsibility is to society. And again, maybe you don't feel like he has any society responsibility. That's fine. Then keep your fucking money and shut up. But you're involving people's lives, and that's horrific. So hate him.
Yeah, it's a good point. His involvement with MSU, because he was also involved in the Rima Vassar stuff, like it was him that she was sitting next to, it was his plane, all that stuff. It didn't go great last year. And maybe we should all just sort of take a break from one another because clearly you need to reevaluate your shit.
I do just want to point this out because this is my favorite line in the entire article. Toward the end, in quoting from page 5 of Relentless, the Mel Tucker brand guidelines.
They have it. Bloomberg has it.
They have it. And
I think it's a quote from another article. I don't think they have the brand guidelines.
Oh, is that what it was?
Washington Post had it, and I think that's where they got it from.
Okay.
Someone at the Post has that, and we need to find them.
We do need to find it quickly because on page 5, the document declares the Mel Tucker brand, capitalized, is a story brand driven by an omni-channel strategy.
Omni-channel strategy.
It gets better. This approach fits the brand as it reflects Mel as a person and a professional, authentic, dynamic, multifaceted, high impact, and resilient. And I like to think that resiliency is really borne out in his weathering of the disgrace of his dismissal and divorce. And I would think current lawsuits. So happy for you, multifaceted Mel. Yeah.
He is omni-channel in his
Very
lawsuits.
omni-channel.
He's probably got civil. He's probably got
very.
Oh, no.
Very. Yeah, that's nice. Good. Goody.
All right, let's do these Twitter questions, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. First up, Kevin, can you gain 250 pounds and get to like 300 pounds and play some offensive guard for us? You've got eligibility, right?
Yeah, I'm worried that Plum would shoot me on the field if I tried to do this.
Only if you got hurt. Only if you got hurt.
Also, it would take like literally 2 of me side by side to be able to do this. So, yeah, sure, let's go. It'll be like what's the Chris Nolan movie with the clowns?
Tenet?
Tenet, sure. It'll be like Tenet. It'll be like the Prestige, Plum. If there's 2 of us, you shoot one, and the other one will live on.
So
Next up for Mike Jones, we'll send this to Plum. The only constant gripe we got is the penalties, right? 10 plus in 3 straight games. Needed some accountability there.
Only gripe?
Yeah, I don't
Only
know.
gripe?
I mean, Childs' unforced first down interception, which only was salvaged by offsetting penalties, is not my favorite. I mean, this is a consecutive game with unforced turnover errors. So,
Yeah, if you have a bet, by the way, bet 1+ interceptions per game for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and that's really fucking stupid. But I don't know. He's young, so I guess you can maybe give it to him. But no, it's not the only grade. But I will say, yes, this is a huge problem, and it's good that Jonathan Smith knows it. It's bad that Jonathan Smith isn't threatening to do physical injury to his players. But I guess the players are doing that to themselves, so that might just be how it goes. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Jonesy, to you then, from Spartan 1963, more dangerous occupation, drummer for Spinal Tap or playing right guard for MSU football?
This would be dark, but if not for fake. It is, as a result of that, indeed playing right guard. And now particularly because you have someone who's wishing more violence upon you from this very podcast. So watch out, right guard. Dallas Fincher, time to resign. Time to resign.
Yeah, I would say, Jonesy, ask yourself, how much darker could this be? And the answer is none. None more darker.
Spinal Tap's not real, right?
It's as real as you want it to be, Michael. It's as real as you want it to be. Next up, from Raymond. Oh, Raymond. To nobody in particular. Yes, it was a very fun game where all of MSU's big names and their backup quarterback got to ball out. But saying MSU looked good would be a stretch. PV ran all sorts of inside slot passes far too well against MSU. The few times the Panthers got in the backfield, and MSU would probably have allowed 17 points if their opponents hadn't shot themselves in the foot with penalties and a bad kick. Better Big Ten teams would have scored 77 points against these guys.
Like Windiana, 77-point putter-uppers. Windiana apparently forks down.
So let me ask you,
I don't know
down.
if
Go ahead.
I don't know that I'm that far on. And I think I was the negative one on this podcast about the team, but we have a fine team. We're 3 wins. That means we're 3 wins away from a bowl game. We have an okay team.
No, yeah.
What truly were your expectations coming into the year? And is it merely that we're 3-0 and you want more now? Are we getting greedy?
We might be getting greedy.
As someone who's getting greedy.
Yeah, you are getting greedy. Kevin, no. Raymond wants to know, did you know that George Blaha never attended MSU, but did attend Notre Dame and the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor? Never meet your
I did know that. I think of him primarily as a Notre Dame guy, and I don't even think about the rest of it. I try not to. But yes, that is an unfortunate thing. Going back real quick, Raymond made me remember this. So their field goal went off the upright.
Yes.
Did Jonathan Kim's point after attempt that he missed also go off the upright, or did it just go wide?
I thought it went wide.
I genuinely used that opportunity to take care of something in the house because he's been so automatic that I missed.
Did we see 2 off the uprights and a 105-yard pick six in the same game? Anyway, yes,
I believe
it is
my dad
true,
described
bro.
it as a doink, so that tells me that it.
I might have been at a game with a 105-yard pick six and 2 off the uprights. Incredible. Anyway,
you were there and you don't even remember. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, there's things the things are going on, there's beers in the stands. You got your George Blahas. I think, can we use this opportunity to talk about, again, that maybe there are big changes that need to start to happen in the game experience? Maybe we start to move on from George. Maybe some things in the stadium starts to change.
2 weeks in a row, we've actually mentioned this. Yeah.
Maybe we could just keep that going. Anyway,
whenever
finally,
they tweet out the SiriusXM call of the game, and I always expect it to be something
feels icky.
Great.
Yeah,
and it's just George. Sorry, Graham. No, he's your hero. But anyway, yes. All right. For those of you in the state, I'm going to ask you this. What constitutes crashing someone else's tailgate? I stood for 20 seconds just outside of someone's because I wanted to watch MSU's last TD drive. Admittedly, I left in the mid-fourth quarter. Raymond, for shame on leaving early.
Yeah.
We've discussed this on the pod. For shame.
For shame.
But either of you, what constitutes crashing a tailgate? Does taking someone's TV count?
Where's your head at on this, Paul?
I don't know. I mean, stealing anything is not legal.
But they're broadcasting it.
Yeah, they're in a public space broadcasting the game.
Did you take food? I think food is the threshold. Food or drink.
That's it. Yeah, I guess you can watch anything. I thought he meant like took the TV, not took it over.
Well, yes.
I think he stood quietly for 20 seconds and watched someone's TV.
That's good. That's not illegal. That's in fact encouraged.
Yes. And not crashing. Like if you'd gone in the tent, maybe?
If you sat down or you took their food, that is a crash. Yeah.
But if you're just outside and I think you've got to either enter the tent or take food or beverage, right?
Yeah, like if you insert yourself, that's also a thing.
Yeah.
I would like to think, Raymond, that these people were perfectly happy to share their 20 seconds of TV with you for a touchdown, a moment of joy and jubilation for all involved. And I would be very disappointed in these people if they weren't okay with it.
Like you didn't make them say, "Who are you exactly?"
Right.
Right. Yep.
Next up is Kate Nordstrom. Kate, welcome back. It feels like it's been a minute.
Kate.
What's the podcast soundboard equivalent of taking the batteries out of a kid's toy and lying to said it died? I fear there's already a need for an audio intervention.
I don't know what she's talking about.
I don't either.
This must be general thought. This is just apropos of nothing, right? This can't have anything
was
to
there
do.
a problem last week?
I think
feel
the
like we've been clean
problem
for a minute, haven't we?
I think the problem was there wasn't enough Rich Homie Quan.
That was
took
the
place
problem.
last
That's
week.
what she means. She wanted more. And who can blame her, frankly?
There was some Rich Homie played in the stadium, and I think unedited version.
I drop top of my wheel. That car driving make you feel some type of way. I know you do. That custom brightly make you feel some type of way.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks, Kate. I'm just feeling.
Mr. CEO, it's what my title say.
I want to take this opportunity because, again, instinctively, I grabbed my face out of sheer frustration. That I want to appreciate Mike Jones, who has
Thank you.
The superior Mike Jones for having given my reaction to the utter antics.
That was fantastic. Did he put that on Twitter?
I don't know he sent it to me on Twitter originally, he needs to have if he hasn't. Last up from Kate Nordstrom for Kevin Greck. RE, the rumor that Colorado supposedly told its band it can't play the fight song after Shadur, don't know if that's how you say it, scores a touchdown. How quickly would MSU fans riot if the Spartan marching band was given similar orders?
I don't know.
So
was it
there's
this?
I drop top of my wheel. That car driving make you feel some type of way.
It really, my frustration is the music. It's watching Kevin sort of just lightly bounce. That's
I'm trying to keep it in the frame on
That's
YouTube. I'm trying to keep it all together.
So upsetting. It is upsetting.
We're gonna get dinged by YouTube again for copyright infringement.
So if anyone isn't aware of this story, the Colorado athletic department had to put out a statement this week that there was no truth to the rumor that Coach Prime told the marching band they can't play the fight song after Shadur scores a touchdown. They have to play his recorded rap song instead. And they said that wasn't true because what the marching band was told is that the rap song needs to play first, and then the marching band can play the fight song after that, which is a nice way of saying that the rumor is true, but there is a little bit more to it than what the rumor is. But it is actually 100% true
100%.
that Shedeur Sanders is greater than the institution and the marching band.
Yeah.
And I think actually we wouldn't riot because, not to be all old man yells at cloud, but marching bands are barely at these college football events anymore. It's wild.
Wow.
So
it is.
I don't know. I think I'd be pretty upset.
it is like
If
it's a team
it's for
game.
the kid too of the coach, nah. That's like that's nepotism. Even Tom Izzo knows no bounds for. So
It's a team game. Like, even if he actively runs the ball in, like, people blocked, things happened, and then to be like, no.
I'd be in full
Stop.
fire in mode. All right, next up, Ali asks, Akron 3.0, Plum. We've talked about the Akron game being a false flag operation for a good team.
Well, I mean, let's say yes. And let's say that they go completely defeated the rest of the year.
Fuck.
Fun.
Fuck. Next up, Jonathan Kim missed an extra point. Is it over? Plum, back to you.
Yes, it is. It is indeed. I mean, it is and it isn't. You know, I had been lighting candles to his virgin mother for longer than I care to acknowledge.
We're going to get so many comments about this.
Listen, I'm the
same
ordained
person.
one here, okay? And if
Yeah,
that person's
yeah,
ordained too, then let me know. You can send me a DM at Plum Alex, all right? And we'll love to discuss the theological considerations of saying absolutely ass hattery. Jonathan Kim, who doesn't listen to this podcast, and if he did, he would know.
And presumably also has a sense of humor.
And presumably had a lot of equanimity regarding the 40, what could have been 41-0 win, and not feeling too badly about it. But it is over, and I'll tell you why it's over. If we can't count on him to kick 1 from 25, how can I count on him to kick for 3 from 55 to win the national championship this year?
I think it's from like the 3-yard line, isn't it?
So we've gone from
It's even worse.
totally defeated to kicking for the national champ. Okay. ACL injury update from Ali. Tough week, had some setbacks, the harder routines, leaving me sore for longer. Sorry about that.
Bro, that's just
That sucks.
proportional. That's just growth. You're fine.
Mm.
All right, Plum. Back to you.
Oh, good.
How
Ali,
the
my
fuck are
God.
we on our third staff in 10 years and we still have the fury of the injury gods? He didn't say this. Have we not sacrificed enough?
Have we not sacrificed enough? Someone has voodoo dolls that they make every year of every single Spartan player. They choose them at random after particularly positive performances and just stick needles into every tendon and joint and orifice. I don't know who's doing it.
Like K-Ron Lynch Adams.
Like
one of
K-Ron
those
Lynch Adams
situations.
can tell you about the orify. So anyway, it's not. I didn't know.
Is it possible that this commenter that we were referencing earlier there, Plum, is on to something? And this is God's retribution for the false idol that we've created of Jonathan Kim? Huh?
Very well said.
Is it not possible?
Very well said. Not only is it possible, it is demonstrably provable.
Mhm.
And we will set out to quit our jobs and prove this. Yep.
Quit our jobs.
Quit our jobs.
Focus on this 100%.
Provable fact.
All
Also,
right.
just want to say, dear listener, that we're calling you out frequently. Thank you for listening. Please rate 5 stars.
Thank you for listening, and sorry for our deep impiety. We know that
Hope.
forgives us.
But again, Plum is legitimately ordained and not like from a, I married someone once and went to a bullshit thing. Like, deacon, is that your title?
I did go to a school of theology. It is indeed true. So,
But deacon, is that the title?
yes, I tried for deaconess, but they wouldn't do it. So,
Okay.
too bad. Too bad for me.
All right. What's next?
Next from Kate Wall. For this week, pick your all-freak athlete starting 5.
Cohen Carr is on the list, right?
Correct. What is your 4?
Matt Trannon. These are all 4s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Trannon, God, haven't heard his name.
Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I think that's okay.
You got to put Brandon Dawson on that list somewhere.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
At the 5, probably, yeah.
3. I think he was a 3, wasn't he, back in the day? I guess I don't remember him ever shooting the ball, only dunking it. So that goes to show.
Yeah, that's right.
We had some like thunder dunky guards. Would you put Gabe on the list somewhere?
No, maybe not.
But he got some big dunks.
No, you'd put
times.
Goran Sutan at the 5, though.
Yes, the most athletic of them all.
Most athletic 5 we've ever had. Goran.
But what about Paul Davis, who had a 91% free throw percentage, which I know for Plum is not good enough for you, but like
It
in
is
the
still
grand
above
scheme
average.
of history,
Yeah,
like is that not its own form of freak athleticism?
I think so. And then Drew Neitzel, just because.
Because he's ambidextrous.
Also true.
There you
Also
go.
true.
That's the most important thing. You could also put Keebler on that list for the dunk that he had in the Big Ten tournament. I think we've gotten really far away from what Kate was expecting.
All right, if we got to pick a point guard, I think it's Neitzel. I think your shooting guard Shannon Brown.
Yeah, Shannon Brown needed to be on this list. Denzel Valentine should be on this list. Jumpin' Johnny Green should be on this list.
Freak athlete?
That's my list. Jumpin' Johnny Green. It's in the name, Michael. It's in the name.
All right, so
Jumpin'
who's
Johnny
your
Green.
point guard? Is Neitzel our best freak athlete point guard?
Valentine.
All right. Valentine at the point. Shannon Brown at the 2. Our 3 is
Dawson.
4 is Carr.
5
is
Green.
All right, and then Matt Trannon off the bench.
Yeah, where he came during his time as on the team.
All right, perfect. Nailed it. Kate,
Off the bench.
I love this series. I'm going to send this one to you, Greg, because this has actually happened to you. Do you consider yourself a micro celebrity?
Consider myself, or I've been told I'm a micro a lot of things. Celebrity is not one of them.
You've been recognized in public, though, for this.
Well, recognized is a loose word.
People heard your voice and saw
and
stature.
people, very nice people, often claim to know who I am, but I never make them prove it, but they pretend to know, and they're being very polite, and that's kind of them. But yeah. And then they're like, "How's Plum? Is he officiating this weekend? How's he doing? How's the blood pressure?
Is he still hinged, or has he unhinged?
What is our hinge status right now for Plum?"
Let's find out if I can make it worse.
That car driving make you feel some type of way. I know you do.
I don't like it.
What? Like it? What's not to like? Shameful.
No, I know.
Play the whole song.
4 minutes and 23 seconds later.
All right.
Next up, 13-8-7-7-9-7-2-5. Kevin, a couple of weeks ago, I asked if Smith should have played Schuster for a couple of series. Yesterday proved my point that we needed to know if he could handle the QB2 job. Thanks for making me sound like a disloyal malcontent jerk. I will never recover.
I'm going to interject here. I think I answered this one the last time around. I think the question specifically was, should he play at FAU? And I think our response was, if we're winning by enough. But there shouldn't be a need to play him. Like, we don't just play, like, we play to win. We don't play dudes for the sake of playing them, is I believe what our response was. And in this one, there wasn't a plan to play him. It was if we were winning by enough at a certain point in time. So, I I feel happier as a fan now, but like the coaches are the ones who need to see that he's capable. We don't need to see it in a game. We happen to get the chance to see it in a game, but like he doesn't need to play to make us happy. I don't know.
So it did bring me tremendous joy.
Yes, agreed.
I will admit, Spartan 18770, he went in a little earlier than I was expecting. I was surprised when he trotted out there.
That's spicy.
I thought we could have used a little bit more rep with Aiden Childs in the offense, but he did a fine job. I feel better about what might happen if something bad were to happen to Aiden Childs. So I guess I'm appreciative for that. But yeah. Next up from Spartan 18770, what week will Jonathan Kim be playing right guard, Jonesy?
I'm just going to shake my head.
Very good.
Not good.
Very good.
Pass.
And finally, has there been any player in college football history, Plum, to return 2 pick sixes in a single drive/series? Hashtag beast.
The answer to that question is no.
It would be hard to do, right?
Hard to do. Impossible, some might say. Next up, Thomas.
This is the type of thing that like you can't even have a stat for. Like I don't even know if you're the ESPN stat guy. How do you figure out like plays that never happened? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Proving the counterfactual. Except for it could be factual. Michael Thomas asks, circumstances aside, are we allowed to read much into a shutout? I can't remember the last one I'd seen, at least where we were on the fun side.
Well, the last one you remember is a 55-0 win over Akron, in which case this pod said, we're shitty. We are not shitty this time around. So I do think you can read something into this, particularly because the defensive front was at least effective against Maryland as well. But this Boston College team is legit. Like, this is going to be a test of our front seven. So keep your eye on that. And if we do well, and what well is against a running team like Boston College is subject to a sliding scale. But if we do well, we might be legit. Like, there's reasons to be hopeful we're legit. Next up from Thomas Zambiasi. Greg, what's your favorite MSU crowd bit? Tossing the football out, getting bored, and really committing to the wave, etc.
I do love tossing the football out. I do love some of the student section antics, but my all-time favorite is the south end zone. I think section 19, 17, something like that. Time to move the chains guy, my Spartan Stadium dad. He and I had many moments together in Spartan Stadium, and I miss him because now I pop around the stadium a lot more. I don't see him anymore. But he's my guy. His just commitment to the bit was fantastic.
I want to chime in here of the first down chant.
Yeah.
That we all know and love.
Yeah.
Even when we're getting trounced at home.
Correct. Yes, it does happen.
The best bit at MSU football stadium.
You know what I do miss? I don't know that this happens anymore. The sitting down after touchdowns and doing the waving, the back and forth, the student section. I haven't seen that in a minute. I might be mistaken about it because I'm high-fiving everyone around the seats. But
they're standing finally.
I'd like to bring that back. Putting in a
died
word.
with COVID. Next up, Beth Amaro, Plum.
Bad. Hey.
Is Purdue really bad? Love to see it.
Yeah, we do love to see Purdue anytime they're not being very good. But is Arkansas State really that bad is the other question, and I think we'll be asking that for some time too. Next up from Beth for Greg. You guys called it. A seasoned veteran as QB2 is definitely the ticket. Well done, you. Do you want to take a victory lap?
That's the nicest thing, Beth. That's so nice.
That is nice.
That's
and
so
Michael,
nice.
Michael, what do you make of the Wall Street Journal naming MSU the number 4 party school in the country? Should we shoot for number 1?
I'm fine with whatever ranking is attributed to us as it relates to partying. Our academic rankings and research rankings are fantastic. So who gives a shit if we play hard and study hard at the same time? So shoot for number 1 for all I care. Next up, Mama Leaf Plum. What ratio of the number of penalties per game versus the number of guys getting involved in the game will bring you peace? What the fuck?
I don't know what it means. Susan, I don't know what it means. Susan,
There's 11
please.
dudes on the field. Do you remember what percentage of the roster? What does that mean?
There are substitutions, and there's 11 offensive and 11 defensive. So is that 22? And then with substitutions, 28, 20, 30? I mean, how many people play in a game? 35?
And why does the number of people who play in a game have anything to do with penalties?
I don't. The rate is this a common ratio? Does she know something about?
Is there a golden rule we don't know about? Like, is the number
We should
of pi
ask
relevant?
ESPN to make a new stat, the Monopoly ratio of
The penalty ratio, the pay,
Like the Gregg
penalties
theorem and the Jones posit or whatever we came up with.
postulate.
Yeah, postulate,
penalties
yeah.
to player postulate. That's it. It's the penalty to player
The
postulate.
PPP.
There can't
PPP.
possibly be
Loan.
a correlation between these two things, can there? The number
PPP
of
actually happened in
penalties.
my life at work, but that's a story for another day.
That's
Next up, Beppe Plum.
No, you forgot.
Someone read this.
You skipped.
No,
You
Oh.
skipped the
punishing
Monopoly.
Susan because of the first question, which can't be answered. I'll say, but Michael, because of that, you'll have to answer. What's one question you wish she'd asked you, and how would you have answered?
I like how she can produce 4 questions during the summer, but now that we have football and stuff going on, she's like, "Here's the bottom of the barrel.
Here we
What's
go.
the
I'm making
question
up-
you want me to ask."
Making up metrics, and then just talk.
What did we all think about name a specific performance? Don't overcomplicate it. What did you think of Aiden Childs' performance? And I'd say, well, asked and answered, but good question, Mama Belief. Good question. Next up, Beppe Plum. Someone else read this one.
Oh God, people, probably blind ones, have told my wife she looks like Casey Anthony. I don't see it, but now she lives very close to us. Should I see if she needs money? Maybe she's babysitting or something. Any questions you want me to ask her? This feels like an SNL.
Oh,
when
Casey
Colin
Anthony
Jost-
Casey Anthony lives close to them. I get it. Okay.
Yes, this feels like when Colin Yost and Michael Che write questions for themselves that
Yeah.
they have to
Yeah.
read. That feel whenever I set out on a Beppe Plum, that's how it feels. Anyway,
Isn't there a Childish Gambino song with Casey and Anthony line to it?
I think it's write the beat and murder it or something like that. Create the beat and murder it.
Yeah, something.
I drop top of my whip, that car driving make you feel some.
All right. No is the short answer. Rant of the week, Plum. Why aren't more schools like at Prairie View A&M you football? They seem rather respectful and were good sports, unlike at UMich football, who cheats, and at Coach Brian Kelly, who murdered a kid with his horstitious attitude and a scissor lift. Anyway, go Panthers.
I mean, it's a good point. It's a great rant. It's articulate. It is factual.
And we definitely really want you to continue to tag people.
Please, well, Brian Kelly at the very least, who
in all your questions
is not remembered enough for the scissor lift murdering he has been guilty
the
of.
Casey Anthonying.
Oh, for God's sakes! Oh God, yeah. Didn't we connect that kid to a Coca-Cola or something, or a Dasani water or something last week or 2 weeks ago?
I
can't
know.
remember now. No. Anyway, all right. Last up tonight is the Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Jones, did you enjoy the 65-66 team that really didn't win a national championship being inducted?
All right. Jerk Guy, I've seen your tweets. You got to give it a rest. All I said was that there's an argument that Mark D'Antonio is the best coach in Michigan State history. I appreciate that Duffy won natties. One of those was when he tied with Notre Dame 10-10. And depending on the publication you look at, different people won a natty that year. Also, some schools were racist, and ours wasn't. Like, you're just playing in a different world than what Mark D'Antonio played in. So I have immense respect for what Duffy accomplished, for what that team accomplished, and how pioneering they were. I'm merely suggesting that it's entirely possible that Mark D'Antonio was a better coach.
Very good. Very good.
Give it a rest. And he tagged Tom Shanahan, the author. And Tom's like, I don't know what a Jonesy is, but he's an idiot. I believe he said defeated national media members as it relates to things about, I'm like, chill, bro. Chill, Tom.
Noted.
Anyway, next
up from the Upper Deck Jerk Guy, did Plum enjoy, and I've been waiting for this to come up, enjoy Max Christie being back on campus for Grind Week?
You will never live this down.
Max Christie needs to stop. Okay, Max Christie, no, he needs to stop. It's not attractive. And I understand that Tom has to just grin and bear it. But this is a person who could have been transformative for our program and decided to selfishly use the Michigan State Spartan program. Wasn't even good while he was here. We can all admit and acknowledge he was.
We can agree and admit that.
Mid at best. What happened to make him somehow effective in the pros is some deal with the devil that I just would not want to be on the when those terms
Jonathan
come due.
Kim would not strike.
Well, no, naturally not. So anyway, we can only wish him the worst and hope that he forwards some large amount of money to this podcast for reasons I can't even begin to guess. So yes. Mm-hmm. Small head.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Next up from the Upper Deck Jerk Guy, and last up, does Grooch now enjoy being the same one? Yep.
I assume this is a typo that was meant to be sane one, which would say, see before, I've always had the best takes and I've always had the best judgment. Everyone knows that. And that's it.
All right,
that's
gentlemen.
The episode.
We're 3-0 atop the Big Ten. What could possibly go wrong? We've got a big one this weekend. Until then, go green.
Go
white.
Say it louder. Didn't hear enough of it. Go green.